If you give me 1 second, I'll just reset your time so you're not in the minuses there. Good, Helm, thank you for being with us. We've got you for 10 minutes this morning, so please present your presentation. But I'll just ask members, bearing in mind that please don't interrupt submitters. As chair, I will judge the relevance of submissions and the relevance of questions, so I'd leave that role to me, and we'll get through this relatively smoothly. So Helmut, I'll hand over to you.
Tēnā tātou. I confess it's difficult to be in this house for this purpose this day. Everything about it screams colonial era dishonesty and deceit that Ngāti Toa believed was behind us. That a national-led government provided the stage for this political theatre is ironic, to say the least. Because less than 10 years ago, another national-led government passed in this House the Ngāti Toa Rangatira Claims Settlement Act that included the following words, and I quote, "With this apology and settlement, the Crown seeks to atone for these wrongs, restore its tarnished honour, and begin the process of healing. The Crown hopes that this apology and settlement will mark the beginning of a new, positive and enduring relationship with Ngāti Toa Rangatira founded on mutual trust and cooperation and respect for Te Tiriti o Waitangi and its principles," close quote. The Treaty Principles Bill before us today is in spirit and substance the antithesis of the mutual trust and cooperation and respect for Te Tiriti o Waitangi, so solemnly promised by the Crown and frankly also passed unanimously by this House to Ngāti Toa to restore its tarnished honour. Truly this nation's story is one of repeated Crown failure to act with integrity and honour. Principle 1 of the Treaty Principles Bill claims the Government of New Zealand has full power to govern and Parliament has full power to make laws. Ngāti Toa refutes the legitimacy of their claim and asks from whom did Parliament obtain that power and on what terms. In 1840, Rangatira of Ngāti Toa signed Te Tiriti on the HMS Herald and the schooner Ariel at Cloudy Bay, Mana Island, Te Whanganui Atarash, Queen Charlotte Sound, Kapiti Island and Mutungangara Island. So intent was the Crown on its subjects having access to Ngāti Toa's maritime domain that the signature of our Taniwhāti Rauparaha was sought twice for our northern and southern whenua and the strategic straits that linked them. Article 1 of Te Tiriti signed by our tupuna gifted to the Crown kāwanatanga or governorship over its subjects within Ngāti Toa's domains. Ngāti Toa's tino rangatiratanga or total chieftainship over its people, interest and resources was acknowledged and guaranteed in Article 2. And in Article 3, the Crown beneficially granted equal rights of citizenship to Ngāti Toa. That's it. It is an historical fiction, repeated just a moment ago, and logical and cultural impossibility that Ngāti Toa Rangatira ceded our mana, our sovereignty to the Crown in 1840. Never happened. What right then did the Crown have to establish this Parliament in Ngāti Toa's domain in 1852? None. That it did establish its institutions and laws isn't debatable. However, it was not on any legitimate rule of law basis. Rather, it was by the means used by usurpers and tyrants the world over. Lies, manipulation, theft and force of arms. That is the shameful whakapapa of this government and this Parliament in this land. And that's the truth. Principle 2 of the Treaty Principles Bill says the Crown will recognise, respect and protect the rights Ngāti Toa had in 1840, unless they differ from the rights everyone else has today and are specified in our settlement. Whānau, it's hard to conceive of a more contemptible example of legal doublespeak than that. Te Tiriti o Waitangi makes no provision for unilateral alteration of Ngāti Toa's rights by the Crown or unilateral amendment at all. Te Tiriti o Waitangi is an unchanging covenant between Ngāti Toa and the Crown. We have been constant in holding the Crown to account to uphold the guarantees they made to us in black and white. In response, the Crown has already acknowledged in this House that it has failed to do so, that it has breached the interest of Te Tiriti o Waitangi for Ngāti Toa repeatedly. The Crown has already unreservedly apologised for those breaches, which hurt and prejudiced Ngāti Toa. Crown leaders solemnly stood in this House and sought to atone for those past wrongs, to restore tarnished honour and begin a process of healing. Instead of honour and healing, today Ngāti Toa returns to this House to repudiate a bill that seeks to disempower and prejudice us once again. A bill that sets aside truth and justly affirmed rights. A bill that misrepresents, manipulates and undermines legitimate constitutional foundations of this nation. A bill that is an international embarrassment for this nation and an indictment of its authors and supporters. Principle 3 of the Treaty Principles Bill says everyone is equal before the law, is entitled to equal protection and benefit of the law, and equal enjoyment of the same human rights without discrimination. Ngāti Toa wholeheartedly agrees with those ideas and supports their incorporation into relevant statutes like the Bill of Rights. Ngāti Toa submits there is no contradiction between honouring Te Tiriti o Waitangi and the principles of equality before the law or equal enjoyment of human rights and non-discrimination. New Zealand's laws already differentiate between citizens every single day on the basis of age, income, health, location, prior convictions, etc. in pursuit of equitable public policy outcomes. The conflation in this bill of equality before the law and Te Tiriti o Waitangi is just a shameful race-based dog whistle to the uninformed and bigoted in this land to create populist political support. That's it. That's all that's going on here. This Treaty Principles Bill is a constitutional solution looking for a problem, whānau. To conclude, the biggest questions for every society are who decides and who decides who decides. In this land, the legitimate answers to those questions have been provided by Te Tiriti o Waitangi since February 6, 1840. Ngāti Toa reminds this House, this day, that treaties are for honouring, not settling, and we look forward to resuming our nation's journey of truth and reconciliation with an honourable kāwanatanga partner as soon as one reappears in this House. Toi tū Te Tiriti.
Thank you, Helmut. We've got time for questions. I'm going to start with Ginny Anderson, then Debbie Ngāti with Paaka, and then Joseph.
Toa Rangatira.
Oh,
It is unusual that we're hearing submissions on a bill that is not proceeding any further, according to this government. Some might say it makes a mockery or a circus of this institution. How do you think being here today reflects upon the leadership by our Prime Minister?
hey, that's a landmine you've invited me to stand on. Yeah, what? So look, I've been clear there because I have put my finger on National and their responsibility as the leader of this coalition government for enabling this I've said theatre, this political theatre that's played out in 2024 and which is culminating in this process. And it is regrettable the call was made, but it is regrettable, at least in one material sense, is that it has surfaced very clearly the dysfunctional ideas that are still embraced by so many New Zealanders that are not based on truth. That at least has been surfaced. So while that's negative, though, I am grateful for it being raised for this reason. It has enabled us to confront, I hope for the last time, those fictions and putting them to bed. It has also enabled a degree of kotahitanga for our people across this motu that's unprecedented, which I think is a good thing. So that's probably all I'll say about that. Kia ora.
Helmut, we'll go a question from Debbie and then Joseph.
Tēnā koutou. My question is, in your submission, you're saying Te Tiriti is not a framework for assimilation, it's a guarantee of partnership. Can you explain why we have this political theatre in front of you and direct to eliminate the fear? How does Ngāti Toa live that partnership for all New Zealanders?
Tēnā. So two observations. I truly believe that the evidence is clear and that even on reflection, it's reasonable to propose that our ancestors, both from the British Isles and from our tupuna here, our Māori tupuna here, that they entered into this relationship between each other in the expectation that it would be beneficial. Right, that this would be a place where we could combine the best of our respective societies to create something new and beneficial. That vision, that aspiration is still with us today. If you want to see what Te Tiriti o Waitangi in practice looks like, come to Porirua. There you will find the delivery of the range of health and social services, housing, education, etc., that is playing out to bless our whole community. Ngāti Toa are actually a minority in those who are served by those services. And so that is the possibility that is in front of this nation.
Kia ora, Helmut. So I'm sorry to interrupt that time. I'll just acknowledge your submission and thank you for being with us this morning.
Tēnā.
We're going to move.
I love what he said was it's a constitutional solution that's yet to found a problem. And I feel like like when he said that, it reminded me of, ironically, right-leaning politicians have got a solution to a so-called abuse that is yet to have been proven.
One of the things which I'm wary of is that ACTA are playing the long-term game. And, a lot of people don't realise this isn't their first shot at this bill. They've done it before. And I think it was about 20 years ago when it first came up. Yeah. And this is virtually a copy and paste. And what they know is that they can just keep applying pressure, and then over time, it'll get through. I think the good thing about this was the result of the hikoi is it woke up so many people's eyes to how submissions work that moving forward, I think it's probably the best thing that ever happened because people know how to do submissions now.
Yeah.
Like I said, it took me 16 years to talk 3 people to do submission before. And then in a couple of weeks I did 110, and I was like, what? And then all my friends in my network, we were helping hundreds of people get submissions in, and then all of a sudden we smashed the record, and then on the last day we doubled that record. And so for me, I was like, in 100 years I would never have guessed that would have happened. And then you've got the follow-on. So what it's opened people's eyes up to is one thing, they can do a submission.
Yeah.
But also the other is that there's submissions going on all the time. So after some of the people that I helped do their first submission, within the next week, they've done 2 other submissions as well. And I was like, what? When I read their submissions, because they used AI, because they weren't very, they weren't very well written, but because they just plugged their ideas in and let AI write it, then they edited it after the fact, they realized that by using a simple tool, they could get what they wanted across the line easily, and they could do it all on their laptop. So, I think it's changed the game. And from what Helmut said there, was what I liked about it is he called out National straight away, because had National not supported this, because it was obviously part of the coalition deal, If they hadn't supported it, we wouldn't be worrying about it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. We'll be worrying about it as an election 2026
Exactly.
policy, not a bill that's going to be reminded. And I mean, you know, as I sit there and say, racism sells views.
Yeah.
That's something I have discovered because our over the last week we've had an explosion of views and some very misguided comments
Yeah.
on our videos. Particularly, I've seen the mount that always go there. Māori definitely said it's sovereignty. They need to accept it at how it is, and it's just like, if that's like, you know, like it's shown, I believe society is more divided than what it looks like. But I do feel that division is being manufactured.
Yeah.
And there are some people who want to find a fence to be divided on. Well, hey, here's a simple one you do. You find a motorway, grass stripped down the middle with a median barrier. There's events to be divided on. Most motorways, you have northbound traffic and southbound traffic. And you cannot drive across them and sit there and turn the other direction like you did with, was it Feta Cooper sitting there and did a hikoi in 1975.
That's
You know, now you won't be able to sit there and turn around on the motorway. As I've seen an old picture of on the Helston Road Bridge of Johnsonville. Look at that. That picture feels weird. Now, the picture wasn't about the hikoi feeling weird. It's the fact there's no median barrier, half the trees missing, all that sort of stuff, and the old-fashioned open national speed limit sign, which we don't see these days now because we replace them with the actual numbers of 100.
Yeah. And like Ginny was saying in her question, why are we bothering if this isn't supposed to be making it past the first reading? If it's not being supported any further, then why?
It's political leverage. So I'm going to say, from a political point of view, Steve was very clever because he knew he wasn't going to get this across the line, okay? Because National said that it's only going to support it to the first reading.
Yeah.
But the amount of exposure he's got and the increase in support he's got from it, politically, it was worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
That is the bottom line of why he did what he did.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, News Guide, The Order, Paper